the travel wizard from Story Adventures Travel, and we're here once again to talk about some fun travel stories and some travel tales. And I'm here with my co-host Amy. Amy,
whoop whoop! Hey everybody! Hey everybody! Amy Kaufman-Relihan, just 20 minutes away in Western Massachusetts. I hope everybody's doing well and surviving quarantine, and you have your drink ready to go because it's Friday night. I think it's Friday. Janina, is it Friday?
It is Friday. It is.
Is it like March 99th or something? I'm so confused.
I know. Is it like, oh, and we have a special guest from the beyond.
From the Twilight Zone.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there she is. Okay.
I don't know what happened. I just disappeared.
We're very excited to have our friend Julia Matheson all the way from North Carolina. And she is I don't know, what do we call it? Some travel advisor, travel planner, travel consultant from Travel Julia's Way. So Julia, tell us about yourself.
Yeah. Hi. First of all, hold on.
Advisor, travel planner, travel.
Let me share us first. Share to the page.
Okay.
I will figure it out.
Starting a watch party?
I was going to try to, but apparently nothing is cooperating now that we're going live. So we will just share it after the fact. So it's fine. So my name is Julia Matheson, and my company is called Travel Julia's Way because I'm a little bossy and opinionated. And I've been traveling for kind of most of my life, and decided to make it my career back in 2009. But for the first several years, I worked on the business side and for a wholesaler. And so it's only about 5 years that I've had my own agency. And I'm a France specialist.
Ooh la la!
France has always been my first love. I speak French, and I just really, really love Paris. And, so that's my love, and that's what I started with. But I do.
So, but I just want to stop you 1 second. Somebody's volume is up on their phone, so I can hear it. So you just need to put your volume all the way down on your phone. I know I'm very interesting to listen to, but I'm not sure people will make the stuff twice. It could be crazy.
Is that better? Is it gone?
It is gone. Yeah.
I blame Julia.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. And we're going to do something a little bit different. So before we get started, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to a local business. My good friend Sue made me these fabulous masks. Look how cool they are.
That is so cool.
And everything else. But this is not Sue's business.
Sue not Patriot.
Owns a company called Illuminite. And it is a reflective athletic wear that's made right here in Massachusetts in Fall River. So made in the USA. So she is making masks for people and still selling Illuminite. So I just wanted to give her a shout out and say thank you for the masks. And if you need some reflective gear on all your walks with your dogs, go check out Illuminite.com.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Have you guys worked with anybody local that you want to give a shout out to?
I do. So I'm kind of a nail obsessed person. That's a good thing. So there's two things that I'm missing desperately during this current situation that we all find her in. One is hair, and still beautiful, and the other one is my nails. So I have a very dear friend, and her daughter has what's called Breeze Nails on Facebook. And I bought a ridiculous amount of these. And it's so funny. My stepdaughter and I are sharing these. So if you can see, now I can't give myself a manicure, which is clearly evident in my ability to put them on, but it's really cool. It's actually nail polish, true nail polish that you peel and stick.
Wow.
That's the wrong nail on your nails. And it's Breeze Nails on Facebook, BRIS nails. And they have all sorts of really cool things. And she's a sweetheart. So there's videos on how to apply them. This is my first attempt. I didn't do a great job, but they're fun. So my stepdaughter and I have been working on them. And so Breeze Nails, and she's amazing. It's really cool stuff, and you don't make the mess. And it comes with everything you need. Like this is the French manicure. It's called Color Street, just so you know. And this is the French
like that, the French manicure.
Yes, because she's I have France. Viva la France. Anyway, so it's really cool. So it's really neat. And it's not hard. And it took me, I don't know, minutes to put on. And this was, I don't remember when I did them now, but it was several days ago. And there you go. Isn't that fun?
Very cool.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like I'm put together minus the hair thing, but you know.
Hey, you're looking good.
Thank you.
What about you, Julia? Do you have anyone that you've been connecting with, or anything online that you saw that you really think is inspirational and fun? And
so I think I'm super, super late to the party on this. So you guys may already know about it, but I was, I follow a ton of people on Instagram, and somebody did a deep dive on the BA Test Kitchen, the Bon Appetit Test Kitchen.
Really?
And they have a fantastic YouTube channel. And so my new binge is their shows. Like there's this one called Gourmet Makes, and it's one of their pastry chefs, or they're all like editors, whatever, Bon Appetit magazine, fancy chef people. But so this younger girl is recreating candies and snack foods like Twix bars, M&Ms, Starburst, like all kinds of different snack foods, Pop-Tarts. And it's they're like 30-minute shows ish, and they're so like fun and pleasant and positive. And so that's been my binge watching lately. Like I can't watch the news, and I'm so tired of like everything. I like go on Netflix and I'm like, I don't feel like anything. But this is just, I love it. And
that's excellent. And I love the idea of making Starburst.
I know.
Yeah, right?
And like making it a little bit nicer. Like
a little fancy.
Yeah, a little fancy. Not like too fancy, because she's definitely trying to recreate them, but like more flavorful, less sugary, that kind of thing.
Right. So, oh, nice.
And I think it'd be fun for like families to watch one and like try and recreate one. I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah. So I want to say hi to our biggest fan, Roxanne.
Roxanne O'Donoghue.
Hey, Roxanne.
Hi, Roxanne. Mwah. She is our biggest fan.
Cheers.
So let's jump into the travel stories. Every week we talk a little bit about it's. So one of the things about travel is it's so fun is the unexpected. And so many unexpected things can happen that start off maybe that seem like a disaster, but in the long run ends up being a great experience or a really funny story, because even though it's still a disaster, it's hilarious at the end of it. So Julie, do you have any stories like that? Something that maybe unexpected happened that seemed like a disaster?
Yeah.
Just a disaster? I don't know.
So I do, especially before I got really into the business, I did a lot of solo travel. I traveled around for about 6 months solo. But my biggest mistake I ever made was I was in the business, but I had gone to visit friends. No. This is when I was backpacking. Sorry. Before I started my business, and I had been backpacking around Southeast Asia for like 3 weeks, and I was ending in Kuala Lumpur. And then I was going to Australia to meet my friends. And so just to give a little bit of background context, I had been in an island in Thailand, just relaxing on the beach. I was celebrating getting certified for scuba, and I was having a great day on the beach. And I jumped on the beach and I cut the crap out of the bottom of my toe. This is not great. This is just a thing that happened. So the next
up for that though, I can't affect it.
And it was bad. I mean, it wasn't like horrible or serious, but it was the bottom of my toe. And the next day, I had to fly to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
How much have you had to drink? I'm just teasing.
But so the only thing I remembered about the airport on arrival was how far I had to walk on this gimpy toe, and I'm like limping, and I decided to just take a taxi into my hotel because I couldn't deal with my gimpy toe. So, and then I remember the taxi was really expensive. So 2 days later, when it was time for me to take my overnight flight to Sydney, you know, I had done my research and I had read the guidebook. I love guidebooks, especially when you're traveling solo. And I knew that Kuala Lumpur had 3 airports. They have a domestic airport, an international airport, and a budget airline airport. This is the important thing. I was in Sydney. Like, I'm at the international airport, of course. So I get on the train. I took public transport to the airport, got there plenty of times, super excited. And I walked into the airport with my backpack and all my stuff. And I'm like, Sydney. Why isn't Sydney on the board? I'm like, go over to an information desk. I'm like, where am I supposed to check into the flight to Sydney? And they're like, we don't have one. And I was like, no.
Of course you do.
And they're like, oh. Yeah. They're like, oh, that's on Air Asia. That's at the budget airport. And I was like,
oh no.
So immediately like panic sets in and I start running for the like taxi, you know, like arrivals, like taxi line, right? And
with your bum toe.
Well, the bum toe had sorted itself a little bit by this point. But yeah. And it's night and there was like nobody kind of around. And I was like, oh my God. And I was early, but like, I don't know how far away this airport was, and I wasn't that early. And so as I'm running, there are 2 guys standing by one of the doors, and one of them yells out, "Oh, a taxi!" And I was like, "Yeah." And then I was like, oh, "Yeah, I need a taxi." He was like, "Okay, I'll take you." And I was like,
"Oh no!"
I'm like, "You're not in the taxi line, and you're not in the taxi."
You don't realize that immediately?
I did.
Yeah,
I did, and I was like, "Okay." Oh, and then I was like, wait, but I only have like $20 equivalent or whatever. And he was like, it's okay. Come on. And I was like, okay.
You had no alarms?
I know. Going, but I'm like, okay, he's here. He's going to take me. So
I need a ride. So he
takes me to his car, which is like parked just right out front. It's not a taxi. And I'm like,
this is before Uber, I'm guessing.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't an Uber. And I was like, okay, but we, you know, chuck my pack in the trunk and then I get in the front seat with him and I'm like, oh God, I have just like made like
myself
kidnapped, like I'm dead.
Yeah.
What am I doing? And so we're
going into slavery.
I know, right? But he was super friendly and super chatty. He wanted to practice his English. He had a brother that moved.
I bet he did.
No, and I'm watching, but I'm like terrified. I'm holding on to my day pack and I'm just sitting in the front seat being like, dear God, what have I done to myself? And I'm looking at the street signs and whatever, and I see like budget airport or whatever. And he doesn't take that exit. And I was like, no, that was the exit right there. That's the exit. Shortcut. And I was like, oh my God. Long story short, it was a shortcut. He got me to the airport in plenty of time. He was super nice. And I gave him all my cash and ran away. And I was fine.
Oh, no way. Oh, my God. So did you, like, pull a pencil out of your bag? Like, okay, I have a weapon.
My dog is joining us for the fun. But,
okay.
Yeah, Hugo.
Yeah, so bottom line, don't do that at home, people.
No, don't do that. Like,
I was just going to say, so your lesson is, Julia,
that not all people are bad.
Okay.
Yes, that is a good lesson.
And that he was genuinely just excited to speak to someone that spoke English and was very, I don't know, looking to make a buck, you know, on the side. I don't know. He was very nice, but don't do that.
Yeah.
Traveling alone.
Yeah.
No.
I just want to say hi to Shannon.
Oh, hey, Shannon.
And Roxanne says you are lucky to be alive.
I am. He is very correct. Like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And what's bad is I knew it as it was happening, and I just didn't get myself out of it. And
because you were worried about catching that next flight. That was you were focused. You were tunnel focused on that one flight, not missing Sydney and all. I get it. Yeah, absolutely.
But you travel alone a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, but we're fixing that.
So let me ask you this. So a lot of women think, I'd like to do that, but I don't think I can. I'm afraid. I'm whatever. What would you say to somebody who said that?
It's fine. I mean, if you've ever taken a road trip in the U.S. by yourself, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. It just, you know, maybe they don't speak the same language, but generally people are super friendly. It is funny sometimes the reactions you get from people who are like, where you're traveling alone? Like, what? Why?
Yeah.
But generally, I find that you meet so many more people, and you have like really interesting, fun little interactions. Like, I know when I was driving around, I drove around England and Scotland for like 5 weeks by myself. And when I was in Scotland, I had a million different fun things. But like, in England, when I was researching, I have two sort of literary things for you, Janine, since you're on the literary side of things. Yeah. I'm a huge Jane Austen fan, and so I was up in the Peak District.
Oh, nice.
Visiting all the different Pemberleys and like having my own little pilgrimage, and it was wonderful. And I'll never forget, I was at like a pub out in the little village outside of Chatsworth, which is the Pemberley and the Keira Knightley version of the movie. And Matt, the pizza owner guy, like the pizza place guy, was super nice and was like, "Oh, you're traveling alone? Like, what are you doing? Did you?" And I said, "Yeah." And I love the movie, and I'm trying to find where she was standing on the edge of the rock with the billowing wind. I don't know if you're familiar with the Pride and Prejudice movie. And
I know the one with zombies.
No, not the zombie one, the real one.
Zombies.
Pride and Prejudice and Zombies is a good.
It was a good movie. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm talking about the actual Pride and Prejudice, but the 2000 and whatever version with Keira Knightley. There's this beautiful shot. And I was like, "Oh, I would love to find that." And he was like, "Oh, that's Stanage Edge. It's right near here. We go hiking all the time there." And he like kind of drew me a little map and like helped me figure it out. And not only that, he took down my name and like followed my blog for like a while and like commented. And so I had this little like, buddy in Northern England for a little while. It was really
wow. Was he single?
No, he was an older man, happily married.
Okay. All right. Hey, cool, a girl's got a dream. I'm still working for you, Jules.
Yeah, that's cool though.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of great experiences, but what would you suggest? So people, you must have to do a little bit of different type of planning. Like there must be some things that you have to do. Do you think like a little bit more cautious, or do you make sure that you like have a place to stay rather than winging it and all that stuff, right?
Actually, no. On that trip, no. Yeah, I kind of called like 2 or 3 days ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
And like actually, the next place I went after that was the Lakes District, where I had a hiking misadventure. And at the Lake District, I had booked a little B&B, and I couldn't figure out my Scotland itinerary. I was really struggling with where to stay and how long to stay in each place. I just couldn't decide. And turns out my B&B owners were big time Scotland fans and went all the time. I think he was Scottish, if I remember correctly. And so they totally helped me. And so I called places from that B&B and made those reservations. Mm-hmm. Now, this is not something I recommend now that I'm in the industry. I will for you because I ended up staying in like a little lady's like spare bedroom for 2 days.
Right. Yeah. And some people want that. Some people want that. That is the experience some people are looking for.
It is, yeah, it is one way of travel. But so the one thing that when you're traveling alone, especially as a single lady, that you're not going to do, you're not going to like go out to bars and like kind of pub hopping and stuff like that. I tend to book a lot of like small group tours. Like in Edinburgh on that trip, I booked because I knew I wanted to go out in Edinburgh. This is a great place. I booked the literary stuff. I booked the, I forget what it was called, but it was like Poets Walk. And so it was like a bar hopping thing led by these 2 actors that like would recite poetry and talk about the different literary.
I went on that.
Yeah, it's great. But so that was a way for me to be with like a group of people at bars and enjoying myself and learning something.
And being comfortable.
Without being alone.
Right.
So, yeah. Julia, do me a favor. Explain, if you would, where does that come from to travel alone? I mean, I get it. I totally get it. But could you describe that? So let's say you're talking to somebody, a single woman, and she wants to experience all this, and she doesn't have anybody to experience it with, but she wants to do it. She's desperate. Where does that, for you, the courage, the strength, the bravery, whatever you want to call it, come from?
Can
you describe it?
Not exactly. So I sort of gentled my way into it a little bit. And that first big trip I took in 2013, other than like a business trip here or there or something like that by yourself, I went with 2 friends, but then we split up. And so, and I realized on day 2 that we didn't have the same travel style. So in a way, I like had to break away from them for my own enjoyment.
Right.
And we kind of kept meeting up a little bit along the way. So it was like a little bit less scary, and we flew over together. So it was like a little bit less scary than just, bye, I'm going to Southeast Asia for 6 weeks by myself.
Right.
So there's that. But also I got people in all my, like growing up, well, not growing up, but like after college and professionally and stuff, you're complaining about your job with your coworkers, right? And, if you could do anything, what would you do? And I'd be like, oh, I'd drop everything and travel. And they're like, well, why don't you? And I'm like, well, no.
I can't.
And I think it's just years of that and years of me like wanting to go places and not having necessarily a travel buddy to do it with, that I finally just got fed up, and I really wanted to leave a job. And I decided that leaving a job and traveling would be a softer exit because it was in the travel industry. And so then I planned that trip, and then my friends decided to join me, but then we split up. And so that's when it started. And, again, like you meet so many people because you're eating alone. Yeah. And so you're usually like eating at a bar or, something like that, like at the bar top of a restaurant. Right. Or something like that. Yep. And so you talk to the person next to you, or somebody else is traveling alone, especially in Southeast Asia. There's so many like backpackers. And so I don't know, that's really where it started.
Yeah.
Where would you, if somebody right now is like, I gotta travel. I have to do it. And where would you say they start, besides with a travel advisor, of course, but where would you suggest they go to create the confidence to be able to do that?
Well, I would first try and put them in like a small group, like G Adventures is or like Backroads, depending on like what they're into. A company like that where they have a lot of solo people in their groups and the group is really small. I think that's a really nice kind of soft way into it, because you can still do your own thing. Most of those companies have plenty of time for free time and stuff. And if you don't end up liking the 10 other people on your trip, then you can do your meals on your own and all that. But at least there's somebody, like there are other people to talk to and meet if you enjoy them and eat with them. And there's like sort of a set plan. Mm-hmm. So I would try and like convince them to do that. But if they really didn't want to do any of those itineraries, I don't think that one particular country or destination is necessarily like better or worse. I mean, like I wouldn't go to like a Caribbean island or something like that by myself. That's not
right.
I mean, you could go to the beach by yourself, I guess. So somewhere, it's really like somewhere that you're super passionate about seeing yourself, and you already have ideas about, I really want to, go see Pride and Prejudice places or whatever it is for you personally, and build the trip around that. And again, when you're working with a advisor, we plan it out for you, so it's not so daunting to have to figure out where you're going to stay every time. And so it's a lot easier when at least the framework is organized for you, and then you just concentrate on seeing the places you're so excited about seeing.
Yeah. Right. And which airport to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have a transfer.
And then you have a good guidebook. I really do still, even as an advisor, I give guidebooks to clients and stuff. I really am a guidebook fan. So having a good guidebook, especially when you're on your own, for finding a place for dinner and that kind of thing, really helpful.
Yeah.
What do you
like? All my clients get a guidebook as a thank you gift.
Oh.
Every single one of them, wherever they're going, they get a thank you gift as a guidebook. And and I highlight little things like you have to do this and you have to do that kind of thing. So it's a cool thing. I still carry them around. I have a whole shelf full of them.
Yeah, we do too. Which books do you guys like? Which ones do you like?
For Europe, I prefer Rick Steves.
Yeah.
Even though it's controversial. But
no, he's not. He's awesome.
we have the exact same philosophy as him in like 90% of travel, except for I like a little bit nicer things. Like,
well, yeah, he's a budget. Yeah.
So I like a Michelin star dining experience. I like a 4 or 5 star hotel where you don't have to schlep your bags up the elevator. I mean, so that I prefer from him a little bit. Otherwise, I don't know. For other places more exotic,
I think it depends on where they're going. I mean, it could be Folders, it could be, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, but it could be that one, or National Geographic if it's certainly very exotic and, off the beaten path kind of stuff that they're going to see really cool things.
Eyewitness guides are pretty good. They're much,
that's a good one.
Like with beautiful photos and descriptions of art and things like that.
Yeah.
So
I had no idea that Rick Steves was controversial. So,
well, he's controversial in the travel industry because he kind of discounts our value.
Right. Right. That's true.
He won't anymore.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody will anymore again, but that's a whole nother episode.
But you brought up a good point, Julia. We were talking about traveling with your friends and then quickly realizing you were not a good match.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, people don't realize, it's almost like, we're having a roommate, like you're best friends on the outside, but then you're put in this little like world of travel and it does not go well. Because I've had that happen to me too. And like literally fights. Not fights.
Luckily we didn't.
Tough, but
yeah. Well, it was just, we had several meetings to talk about budget and what we wanted to see and what we wanted to accomplish and all this good stuff. And I thought we were mostly on the same page. And like, we're talking, this guy, he's still one of my best friends. He's my best friend from high school. It was him and his wife. But once we got on the road, budget, they were looking at it because they were splitting costs and I was not splitting that cost. So like, and then like what they wanted to do, like he's a delicate flower and kept getting sick. And I was like, like
we had shit to see.
I mean, I'm not coming back to Hong Kong. Let's go. Little things like that. And so, yeah, it's hard to know if you're going to travel well with someone. Like I just traveled on my trip to the Seychelles with Angela Jacobus from Travel That Matters. And I knew
she's next week's guest.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. She's
yeah.
Stories. She's done really cool things. But we had never like roomed together. We had been on trips together, and but she's usually rooming with her mother, and then whatever. And it was really interesting. I mean, we traveled great together. There was no issues. But it was interesting.
That's awesome.
Just what you learn about someone when you are rooming with them.
You guys had close quarters too.
Yeah, we were on a cruise ship for 16 years.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
That was a great trip.
It
was a great trip. Oh my God, I was so mad jealous. I was so jealous. I had major FOMO on that whole thing for you.
That was a fantastic trip, and something about it being like right before this happened, like it was just spectacular. And just all just think about jumping into the water. I mean, like our only worries were like, what were we going to see in the water today? Were we going to see a shark or not? I really want to see Ray. I mean, like, come on. Like, it was spectacular.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Julie, I also want to give you a shout out on your Paris this week.
Oh, thank you.
Honest to goodness, I thought it was amazing. So you can kind of tell us about it a little bit. And I know our time's almost up, Janine, but what you did this week, because I know you're supposed to be on a trip.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to be on a couple this month, but anyway, it's fine. We are where we are. And but you did a really, really good job. I love following along. So could you just kind of tell, and we'll send everybody over to your webpage.
Yeah. So a year ago, like yesterday or the day before, Notre Dame caught fire, and I was with you and lost my mind.
Sure.
Super bold. And I think it was sort of that moment that I realized, like, no, I really am connected to Paris. Like, this is real for me. And so that day I wrote down like yearly spring break trips to Paris. And like as a goal, like I wanted to lead people on spring breaks to Paris. And a group didn't materialize for this year, but I was still going to go, and I was going to meet up with some of my good friends and possibly bring another friend. But ironically, before this COVID thing happened, it just never kind of materialized. And maybe that was God's way of saying, like, yeah, you're not meant to go this year. But I realized last week, I was like, you know what? Like, that's really ridiculous. Like, why don't I just like share what I would have been doing and pretend that I spent this week in Paris? So I did a virtual spring break in Paris. And every day I've sort of talked about like what the plan for that day would be. You know, like the post of the day was like the main thing we're seeing, like the Louvre or today, you know, whatever. And then in the stories, I kind of filled in some of the details with like some of the highlights, some of my favorite parts of Paris, and some of my favorite things to do around Paris. And so it's been really fun.
It was very cool, by the way. I felt like I was back in Paris. I really, really, really did. And I was like, oh, to do anything to be able to board a plane today. Seriously, I'd do anything.
When I started it was with all my accoutrements for going to sleep on an airplane. That post, like everyone loved that post.
No, it was perfect. It was because that's what you do, right?
Yeah.
That's what you do. And Janine, I have like posts on I just want to give some shout outs.
Yeah.
To Patty Mills Roy. She's sending us lots and lots and lots of love. She's awesome. And she was commenting on my nails business. She said she has a friend who does it too. Or not my nail business.
I just shout out.
Yeah, and Angela's on. So give shouts to your roommate there.
Yeah.
And yeah. And then Patty says that tends to happen more often than not, right? Most people are very good in this world ultimately. Oh, about good things about your story. Yeah. And then Angela says, I'm a much more cautious solo traveler than you, Julia, which doesn't surprise me from what she's saying, but I see question mark on your face.
Oh, we have different versions of what that means, I guess, because the things she has done, I would not have done.
Really?
No, I mean, just I'll not spoil the story, but she is a very brave lady who's done some very brave things. Not in the I made a stupid mistake way, but in a very like cool, like I want this life experience. So she surprises me that she thinks that she's more cautious than me.
That's interesting. All right, I can't wait.
We'll find out next week. And I just want to say hi to Jen Field. She said hello too, and she liked your story, Julia.
Oh, good. Thanks, Jen.
So everyone can find you at Travel Julia's Way on Facebook, right? Instagram. And is that your website too? Like,
yeah, that's my website. And I've got lots of blogs from all the, not recently, but from the solo travel days, because that's how I started, is I blogged that trip for 6 months, traveling solo for my friends back at home. So there's all kinds of, search a country and you'll see stuff.
But if they want to find that virtual spring break in Paris, it's on your Facebook page?
Yeah. You just search hashtag virtual spring break in Paris.
It's amazing. You got to do it. It's amazing. What are you doing next week, Jules? Anything?
I don't know. I kind of almost want to continue, but I don't know.
Yeah, you should. Because my son's on spring break next week.
Oh, okay.
Technically.
Like the countryside. Or like,
Oh, yeah.
It was very cool, Jules. It was very, very cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was super fun. And thank you, everybody who stopped by to say hello. And, we'll see you next week. And until we travel again, keep dreaming. We'll be out stuff. And cheers. Cheers to you.
See you next week.
Bye. Bye.
Keep dreaming.
Keep dreaming, for sure.